Hey everyone, it's Craig Veroni with RE/MAX Masters Realty. I'm in beautiful Fort Langley today with Alex McFadyen. You probably know him as the Mortgage Pug. Come to check out his new office and company called Thrive Mortage Company. Did I get that correct?
That's right, Thrive Mortage Company.
Thrive Mortgage Company. In my efforts to continually bring you not only the best content, but dealing with the best people, I've come out to Langley today to talk to Alex so that he can actually talk to you about what's happening in the mortgage industry right now, interest rates, the opportunities for buyers. So we're gonna sit down with him in his hood. So let's get into it.
Hey, thanks so much, Craig, for having me down, or coming down, I should say, to my neighborhood. I appreciate you having here. And we were having some conversations earlier today about interest rates, what's happening, and you mentioned that you had some common questions that people are asking about interest rates, if it's a good time, that sort of thing. So what are the common questions that you're hearing right now?
Buyers are asking me what rates are doing, you know, what are the projections, should they wait?
Okay.
Many clients, I know you can get them a rate hold for 90 to 120 days. The common question I get is what happens if the rate goes down during that period, particularly if they've purchased a home, you know, you've got an accepted offer.
So let's unpack that. So first and foremost, you know, interest rates, fixed rates and variable rates are based on two separate measures. And the first is, if it's a fixed rate, it would be the bond market. What's happening with the bond yield? So when we see the bond yield in Canada, the 5-year benchmark, go down, we usually see fixed rates come down with that. Now, the interesting thing is, over the last 4 to 6 months, the bond yield has come down, but the banks have kept rates high until the last month or so.
Because they want to make money.
It's exactly right. It's exactly right. And so we started to see some competition with some of the lenders and banks that started being a little more aggressive and coming down to normal levels. And slowly we've seen a lot of lenders follow suit, right? So this is good news for any borrowers. We're seeing rates that are as low as they were now 2 to 3 years ago.
Wow.
Whereas in winter, you know, fixed rates were hovering around the high 3s to 4%. We're now back down to 3 and sub 3% for many of the fixed rate options. Variable rates, however, have stayed pretty much the same. There's still a fantastic option. In fact, it's my choice for most people is always a variable, because at the end of the day, life changes quite frequently. And with a variable rate, you're not locked in, the penalties aren't big, anything of that nature. So I'm telling people, like, fixed rates are awesome. Variable rates have been great for a long time. As a buyer, it just means all good things, really good things.
Fantastic. So what are the top 3 things that buyers need to know right now about interest rates?
So first and foremost is, even though you might get locked into a rate when you make a purchase on a property, you can still get a lower interest rate. Now, if you go to a bank directly, the reality is when you get locked in, they're not going to tell you if the rates are going down, and they're not going to proactively monitor that for you because they want it to hold. Whereas as your mortgage broker, we don't have any skin in the game as far as what the interest rate is. So what we do for our clients is, when you lock in, and let's say you're purchasing a property today and it's 2 months out, if we see that lender drop its interest rates, we're going to proactively reach out before closing to get what we call a price drop. So that's one of the key advantages of working with an independent associate like myself, because really we're not trying to gain a profit on you. So that's one key thing. The second thing to keep in your mind is that although it's always advertised, the 5-year fixed rate is not always the best option for people. And this may or may not be news for a lot of people, because that's traditionally what they've done. A lot of people don't realize this. A 5-year fixed rate is the most common product because banks started marketing that because that's where they make most of their money. Penalties, longer terms, that sort of thing. So keep in mind, your strategy is most important. And if the bank, if you go in there and that's the first thing they're offering, you should probably walk away because they're not asking you enough questions. The third thing, and you had touched on this before, was pre-approvals and rate holds are important, but that doesn't mean that that's always what interest rate that you're going to get. So don't worry. I mean, it's a good idea to have it, but don't worry about if you're seeing rates drop, because when you actually make that purchase, Craig, when you go ahead and you get your clients an accepted offer, they can still get the lower interest rate option. It's just there to protect them in case rates do rise. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. The best advice is to work with a mortgage broker, as I always suggest to my clients, simply because, as you said, you've got no skin in the game in terms of what the rates are doing. You're there for the client. They can come in and get pre-approved so that they can go shop with confidence. And even if they get an accepted offer on a property, whatever if the rate happens to drop before they complete, you're there actively, proactively looking out for their best interests. So if they can get a lower rate, you're going to make sure that they get that.
Absolutely.
And I've known a number of clients who've saved a ton of money simply for that one feature alone. Another thing that I advise my clients on regularly in this market right now is, if you need to upsize, which means if you need to move out of the product you're currently in, whether that's a condo or townhouse, into a larger home because your family's growing or for whatever personal reasons you want to upsize, now is actually a fantastic time, because as you mentioned, Alex, the interest rates have come down
Yep.
from last year, but prices have also come off of those products. So you're saving on both ends.
Yeah, Craig, I guess where I would start is to say, a lot of people are concerned and they're on the fence and waiting right now, and I'm hearing a lot of that, and I think you are too.
Yeah.
And I think what the reality is, it's not the right market for everyone, but it's the right market for a lot of people, and they need to be asking the correct questions to someone like yourself or I or whoever. And so the first thing right off the bat is that when we see the interest rates come down the way they have right now, a lot of people think that there's going to be a rock bottom. We discussed previously, and just a reminder if anybody's watching this, that it's okay, as your broker will continue to get your rates lower, but I guess the other factor to consider is we have seen prices come down for a number of reasons. One, we saw that the stress test came in. We also saw that the market changed a little bit with some of the different federal budgets and guidelines and so forth. But when we've seen now the interest rates come down and we've seen the prices down for quite some time, there is some thought here that we're going to see a lot of people jump back in and see prices eventually increase. We do have a federal election this year, so things are likely to stay stable right now. But if you can get in, if you can lock in right now with rates being 1% lower than this time, 6 to 8 months ago, price is not substantially changing, and sellers willing to somewhat negotiate on the prices, it makes a lot of sense if you're going to be in a property for more than 5 years to get in now. Lock in your low product or your lower interest rate, get your property at a good price point, and at the end of the day, if you're buying this property as investment, if you're upsizing or buying your first property, you're going to save money that way. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Thank you for packaging it up so concisely. That's perfect.
Thanks for having me, Craig. I appreciate it.
Thank you.